And
Yeah,
that's a good way to do
absolutely.
it.
I also love that you touched on carbonating white wine. Sometimes um, pegged Prosecco or Champagne or Cava is hard to find in many states in
Hmm.
the United States. And so we get this question a lot in that, they're a Piaggio Ape, perhaps, and they never really looked into sourcing that stuff before they started their build. And so they get down to it and they're like, we can't find any champagne. And we're literally called something bubbles or something, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so people will ask, can I just pour prosecco into a keg
Hmm.
and keg it?
Yep.
And my recommendation is not to do that. The best case would be to take white wine and carbonate it, like
Yep.
you mentioned it. But but ideally, you would be able to find it in a keg, because there's obviously a lot of science that goes into that. And as soon as you pour white wine, it starts to oxygenate, right? And so you have to then expose it to more oxygen in order to carbonate it. So the lifespan of that is very short. You have to consume it. You have to carbonate it and consume it within like 3 days in order for maybe 2 to 3 days in order for it to be any good.
Yeah. So there are tricks to carbonating stuff like that. Not exposing it to like purging your kegs prior to filling it. So if you're going to put a bunch of CO2 into the keg, CO2 is heavier than air. So as long as it's full of CO2, whatever liquid you're pouring in there, if you can siphon it in there, that's best with tubing. If you have to pour it, you can pour it, but as long as it's going in there with CO2 that's in there, it'll minimize that oxygenation, and it'll push the oxygen, it'll push the CO2 out as it's filling up, and then once it's full, close it, cap it, carbonate it. Should minimize that sorry oxygenation, uh, oxidizing the wine, so it should minimize it. But yes, keeping it within a few days, but because it'll take a day or two for it to carbonate. So
Yes, like when you open a bottle of white wine at home,
yeah,
you have a glass the next day, the third day, it's starting to turn.
yeah,
And to your point, another way to speed up that carbonation is to use a carbonation stone.
yeah.
And I had a carbonation stone for a full ass year before I realized how to use it properly. So, a brief little support here. A carbonation stone, you want to put it in and you want to release. You've got the CO2 in there. You want to release all the CO2 a little bit, and then you want to shake the keg, and then you want to release it again, and then you want to shake the keg, and maybe one more time, and then you put it in there, and then you repeat that process like a couple hours later. But it will half the amount of time that it takes
Yeah, that
to actually.
definitely speeds it up. Yep.